I think, from as long as I can remember, I always like to work out, but I think it probably comes from just, my mom. She's a hard worker. She's always, worked hard in all of her, ventures that she does. From Akron, Ohio, so Ohio is always that work, that blue collar mentality. So it's just always what I've been around. Always grew up around that, just to work for what you want. And if you want to dream, if you have it, just go work for it. So yeah, I think just I've always had it. I've always, seen that, you put in the work and, hopefully it works out for you. So I don't think there's ever been a time where, I haven't, wanted to improve myself in, whatever aspect, either that's working out or, building myself, mentally, physically, emotionally, just always trying to find a way to improve myself. So yeah, I think that's where it stems from, I believe. So. Yeah, yeah. The recruiting process, especially in high school, as you guys may know, is super hectic. You got, coaches, texting you, trying to, sell their program. You're trying to sell yourself. So it's a very hectic process. But, I started my process, relatively late in the recruiting process. So I started more in my junior year. I played football, obviously baseball. I wrestled and I ran track. So I was, just always, wanted to compete. Always wanted to, be in the competition setting, but I really didn't know that I wanted to, play football at the collegiate level until like around my junior year, which is like pretty late. That was around the COVID time as well. So at the time, like I really, started getting serious about football. I just, started sending it out through Twitter. I really didn't have the opportunity to go to in-person camps at the time because of COVID. So I started, getting some offers here and there from like some D2 schools, and that, slowly turned into, Division 1 FCS. And then at the time, I had around 30 offers when Navy came my way, and I started talking with Coach Volker and Coach Newberry, and just seeing the program, seeing the history, the brotherhood, just what it means to be, a Navy football player. And I think that just, everything that I saw, and that was everything that I wanted, to represent and be that in the future. So yeah, the coaches, the everything, the brotherhood, like I talked about, that was just everything why I wanted to choose Navy. And I couldn't be more proud, and so blessed to be here. So. Service was, number one in my mind. Football was obviously there, and that was definitely a big motivating factor of coming to the Naval Academy and joining this amazing, system. But obviously, service is something that when you graduate, you're going to have to do. No matter what, in what way or fashion you want it to be. So I think that's definitely something that should be, number one, and it was definitely number one in my mind, coming in here. So. I was coming out of plebe summer, which is the military training here at the Naval Academy. And as soon as I got out, I went to the prep school, the Navy prep school, right? NAPS, we call it. And I played linebacker there as well. I was around like 235, like 240 as a linebacker, right? So when I got to the academy and I got out of plebe summer, I just remember it was like one day, it was like right after we got done. I was super excited, to get done. And then Coach Newberry, he came up to me as the defensive coordinator at the time. And he was like, "Hey, Landon, I was wondering, I saw, your weight and everything, and I think you're a great player, and I think you have a great opportunity to play at, defensive line." And I was like, "Defensive line? What's that?" As a, linebacker, I just never really, thought of that as like an option, or I was like, okay, like that's usually for bigger guys. But no, I totally, I was like, yes, sir, whatever I can do to help the team. So yeah, took it like a champ, and I just started doing some research on, what it was, how you can be good at that position, and it took me a while to, so I didn't play at all my freshman year. After getting moved, I played, scout team, D line, the whole year, my whole freshman season, and then that spring ball, my freshman year, I started, getting out there and at practice, and figuring out what defensive line is. And all I knew at the time was just get off the ball, right? Just get off the ball as fast as you can, and try and just get past the big guys in front of you. So I was around 240. during that spring ball time, and I was just learning things, just trying to just learn the technique, learning how it works, and what all the different intricacies of what defensive line is. And then after that spring ball, I gained 40 pounds that summer. So I was like, man, I gotta if I want to make this the thing, I gotta gain some weight. So I just started eating, lifting weights as much as I possibly could, and then yeah, I came into fall camp my sophomore year at 280 pounds. So that's pretty much yeah when it happened and how it happened. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Your entire experience here at the Naval Academy just shapes you as a leader, right? You're around, some of the best leaders in the entire world. So you get to, talk to those people and interact with those people on a daily basis. So you continue to learn. I think I've grown, my leadership, ability, immensely since being here. Just like I said, being around, such amazing people, you figure out what traits you like and what traits you don't like, and then that molds you as a leader into leading, people that, and that you're supporting, so you'll lead in the future. So yeah, that's definitely something that, I've grown and, on the football field, it shows, you get to, lead, whatever, younger guys are on the field and even your peers, right? You have to hold guys accountable and make sure guys are doing the right thing, on and off the field. Here at the academy, so that's definitely something that's huge. And every single day you're practicing your leadership traits, because not everyone likes to be led the same way. You have to know your people. You have to know who you can apply more pressure to, and who you need to back off to, and just different ways of leadership. So you definitely learn those things here, and that's extremely important in being a leader and being here at the Naval Academy. So. I think first one is probably, competence, right? I think obviously, in order to be a good leader, you have to know your job, you have to know what you're doing, in order to lead the people the right way. So you obviously have to know your job. That's very important. I think compassion. I think, like I said, not everyone likes to be led the same way. So you have to know your people. You have to understand them, understand where they came from, know their background, in order to lead them the right way, and they'll have a lot more respect for you for knowing them as a person. Yeah, I love our coaching staff, Coach Newberry, Coach Volker, Coach Brown, all the coaches. They're great coaches. They hold us to an extremely high standard. We practice hard every single day to continue to build ourselves up and be the team that we have been so far. We want to continue to get better. We want to continue to mold our game. But our coaches, they hold us to extremely high standard. I really appreciate it. Sometimes it's hard, going out every day and competing. But it's definitely worth it, and it shows by our record so far, and the work that we are willing to put in to continue to get better. So yeah, I love our coaching staff, and they're amazing. Being a member of the service academy is definitely, it's busy. Your schedule is packed from, 7 in the morning all the way till, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then even more, after that, because you have sports and things like that. So yeah, so you're in class pretty much all day, from, 7 o'clock in the morning till, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then you go to practice and you do your athletics, till around 7:30, and then you eat dinner, and then you do homework after that. So it's very busy schedule. So all those different things that you do on a daily basis builds good habits, as an adult, right? As a leader, just yeah. When you get out of here, right, and you have a lot more time on your hands, you're gonna be able to use it more effectively because you know what it's like to not have time. So I think all those different traits, that you build here, and all those habits definitely apply, and they make you a better person, and better leader, as a whole. Really, I think the freak list, it's something that it was my sophomore year, I believe, was the first time I was on that list. And at first I didn't know what it was. I was like, "Oh man, like this thing is saying I'm a freak." I was like, what is going on here?" But no, diving more, deeply into it, it definitely it means a lot, and being able to have being able to be on that list, and people to recognize my athletic ability is just an honor, and thank you to them for sure. But yeah, I think just being able to every day, you go to work, you put as much effort in, to building your muscle, your strength, building your speed, your quickness, all those things goes into that. And I'm just, like I said, I'm thankful to be recognized on that list, so it means a lot for sure. But I think a time um where I've helped someone, on the build themselves physically is Griffin Willis, the defensive tackle that plays next to me. When he showed up here, I always like to lift, or I always like to work out. So I'd always be in the weight room, like lifting and stuff like that. And when Griff showed up as a freshman, he was a big lifter as well. But he saw me lifting, and he saw the extra work I put in after practice and all these things. And the first thing he came up to me and asked me was like, "Hey man, like when do you work out? What do you hit? And when can I work out with you?" Right? And that meant everything, right? I was like, wow, okay, like this guy, he's a young guy, and he wants to, show up and, work out with me. And I was like, sweet. And I told him I work out probably almost every single day. On game weeks it's a little bit less, but just trying to build my body up. And he was like, "I'm right there with you." So from that point on, he's worked out with me pretty much every workout that I do. The extra lifts and things that we do on a daily basis. So yeah, and now he's starting. At that point, he was behind me at nose guard, but now he's coming to his own. Now he's the starting D tackle right next to me. So it just means everything. Being able to help him in his process as he's grown as a great player is just it means a lot. So. We were in a team meeting when Coach Newberry announced it, and he was like, "Hey, like our team captain's here, Blake Horvath, and then Landon Robinson, who didn't have a single vote against him." I think he said it was like the first time he's ever seen that, so it's pretty cool. And yeah, it just meant a lot. I was, got up, gave a little speech to the team, and then we got to work. So. It means everything, like I said earlier, you go to school with, some of the best and brightest in the entire world, and the opportunity to be a leader, for those people is awesome, and it means a lot. But even, them having the confidence and the belief in me to be the leader, right, and not having, a single person vote against that, it just means it means everything. And it's something that I take a lot of pride in, and every day I try to, I show up and be the best that I possibly can be for those guys. So. I think just by being, the two traits that I talked about earlier, that's definitely plays a big role. Just being, being able to speak with your guys, right? Being a guy who's going to go and talk to your teammates after practice, a guy who's, present in the locker room and making sure that you're, getting to know your guys, right? I think, I could name almost everybody on my team, almost 200 guys, off the top of my head. So just knowing those guys, knowing where they're from, being personable, right? And then, showing up on the field, right, obviously helps as well. So I think just those traits definitely, helped in it. So. Football is a very physical sport. It's a very demanding sport, and you spend most of your time, practicing football, watching football, and all those aspects. So you take those leadership, abilities, and being able to build a team that can, work together to accomplish a goal, right? And that's pretty much what the military is, Navy or Marine Corps, however you see it. You're building a team to accomplish a goal as best as they possibly can. So you take those skills that you develop on the football field, and you see what works, what doesn't work, how guys get better, how they don't get better, and you take those things into the fleet. You take those different traits, all those different attributes that works, and what doesn't work, and you take that experience and you go apply it to the military. So yeah, that's definitely something that helps. A lot of football guys, a lot of Naval Academy football guys, have a lot of success as leaders in the fleet because it builds so much. Football builds so much experience with working with people, right? And it's a people business. So it definitely applies for sure. Yeah, no doubt. No, I think those goals, you have those goals that you set at the beginning of the season to, be, the champion of this and be, get this ring, get this trophy. So you set those goals out at the beginning of the season, and then you go to work on it, right? You then you really, you have those things. Everyone has those goals at the back of their mind, but you really don't, talk about it as much in season. Because you're just focused on the goal, right? You just focus on, just working. And every single week, you got to go 1-0 every week. You have an opponent that is staring you in the face every Saturday, so you got to get ready for that, and you just got to take it one step at a time. And you can't really think about too far down the road. You just got to go 1 week at a time. So so far in the season, we've just been trying to go 1-0 every week, just keep building, and then before you know it, those goals will present themselves to you. So yeah, that's I think this every week we just try and go 1-0 and not worry too much about the goals down the road. That's something that is always in the back of our minds. So. I think seeing Ray get drafted last year was the biggest motivator I've ever seen. It's awesome, and I think obviously the NFL is something I you know strongly want to pursue, and that's something that Ray's path has just been like I said, super motivating, and that's something if I can have the opportunity to do that, that'd be awesome. So yeah, it means a lot, and seeing Ray do what he does every week right now playing for the Jaguars just is super cool, and I'm gonna do everything I can to hopefully be in that position in about a year from now. So.